I was in the back of a taxi about 5 minutes from my place when we passed my street without slowing down. I checked the time on my phone because I was already thinking about getting inside and going to bed. At first, I thought he'd just turn around at the end of the road, but he didn't slow down at all. We kept going. I glanced at the map, more out of habit than anything, and saw the route line shift slightly. That part was normal. What wasn't normal was that he passed the next intersection too. I leaned forward a little and said, "Hey, I think we missed it." He nodded once, like he'd heard me, but didn't say anything. That pause felt just long enough to notice. Then he said, "It's fine. Not reassuring, just flat." I sat back and looked at the map again, zooming in slightly. The streets ahead didn't look familiar anymore. I told myself there could be a detour I didn't know about. I hadn't driven that way in a while. I looked up again and realized the streetlights were getting further apart. The houses started disappearing one by one until there was nothing but darkness outside the windows. I didn't recognize anything anymore. I leaned forward again. "Where are we going?" He didn't answer. I waited a second, then said it again. "Where are we going?" He shifted slightly in his seat, but didn't turn around. "Shortcut," he said, same tone as before. I looked down at my phone. No signal. The map had frozen. I tapped it a few times like that would fix it. Nothing changed. I noticed how quiet it had gotten. No other cars. No distant traffic. Just the engine and the tires on the road. I reached for the door handle without really thinking about it. It didn't open. I pulled it again, harder this time. Still nothing. I leaned forward slightly. "Can you unlock the door?" No response. The car kept moving at the same steady speed. I said it again, louder. "Can you unlock it?" He adjusted his grip on the wheel. "It's locked," he said. That was it. No explanation. Something about that made everything feel different. Up until then, I could still explain it away. Wrong turn, bad route. Maybe he just didn't like being corrected. But that answer didn't fit any of that. The road got rougher under the tires. I could hear small bits of gravel hitting the underside of the car. The trees on both sides felt closer now. I reached forward and grabbed the back of his seat. "Stop the car," I said. He didn't react. I tightened my grip slightly. "Stop the car." For a second, the car slowed down. Then it sped up again. That was when I moved forward without really thinking about it and reached for the steering wheel. The car jerked slightly to the side. He reacted immediately, pushing me back with one arm while correcting the steering with the other. The tires slipped on the loose gravel. Then he slammed the brakes. The car stopped hard. Everything went quiet except the engine. Then I heard the locks click. I pulled the handle again, and this time the door opened. I got out immediately. The headlights lit up the ground in front of the car, but everything beyond that was just dark. I stepped back a few paces expecting him to say something. He didn't. After a few seconds, the car started moving again. He turned around and drove back the way we came. I stood there for a while, waiting for my phone to reconnect. When it finally did, the ride was already marked as completed, like nothing unusual had happened. I still don't know why the doors were locked or why he didn't want me getting out before we stopped. I ordered a ride home through the app because it was already past midnight and I didn't feel like walking. The car that pulled up was older, dark color, with a small crack running across the corner of the windshield. When I got in, the seatbelt didn't retract properly. I had to pull it out and feed it back by hand until it clicked. The inside smelled faintly like cigarette smoke, even though the windows were closed. I said a quick "hey" and sat back. The driver nodded once and started driving without saying anything. That didn't feel strange. Some drivers just keep to themselves. I checked the route out of habit, watched the little car icon move along the line, then locked my phone. The streets were mostly empty, just a few cars here and there. It should have been a normal 10-minute ride. For the first couple of minutes, nothing stood out. We passed a gas station, then a row of closed shops, all dark except for one flickering sign in the distance. I remember thinking I'd probably be home in time to still catch something on TV before falling asleep. Then the car slowed down, not like at a light, more like he just eased off for no reason. I looked up. We weren't at an intersection. There was nothing there. The road just kept going. The car rolled forward a little more, then turned off onto a wide, empty parking area. I hadn't even noticed an entrance until we were already in it. The asphalt looked worn, with long cracks running through it, and there was a single light pole standing off to one side. The light flickered every few seconds, never fully steady. The car came to a stop. I leaned forward slightly, expecting him to turn or explain something. He didn't. He just sat there, both hands on the wheel, staring straight ahead. I looked past him, trying to see what he might be looking at. But there was nothing there, just empty space and that flickering light. I glanced at my phone again. The app still showed us moving. The little icon kept sliding along the route like we hadn't stopped at all. I watched it for a second, then looked back outside. Nothing changed. I shifted in my seat, trying to make sense of it. "Did we stop?" I asked. No answer. I waited a second, then tried again. "Are we waiting for something?" He moved slightly this time, adjusting his grip on the wheel. "Just a second," he said. Quiet, like he didn't want to say more than that. It didn't explain anything. I looked down at the map again. The icon had moved further ahead now, like it was drifting away from where we actually were. I zoomed in, trying to line it up with anything I could recognize. I couldn't. I hadn't seen a single building since we turned off the road. I checked the signal. Nothing. The map froze where it was. I tapped the screen a few times, but it didn't respond. I lowered the phone slowly and listened. No traffic, no distant noise, just the engine running quietly. I reached for the door handle without really thinking about it. It didn't open. I pulled again, a little harder. Still nothing. I paused, then looked closer at the door. There was a small child lock switch near the edge, scratched up like it had been used a lot. I hadn't noticed it before. I leaned forward slightly. "Can you unlock the door?" No response. The car stayed still. I said it again, louder this time. "Can you unlock it?" He exhaled slowly, like I'd interrupted something. "Wait," he said. Same flat tone as before. I sat there for a second, trying to figure out what I was supposed to be waiting for. The car wasn't moving. The app still thought it was. I leaned forward between the seats a little. What are we waiting for? This time, he turned his head slightly, not fully, just enough that I could see part of his face in the dim light from the dashboard. "We're almost there," he said. That didn't make sense. We hadn't moved. I looked outside again, still the same empty lot. Then, without warning, The car started moving again, slow at first, then faster. The tires made a rough sound on the cracked surface. Before we reached the road again, the app jumped forward like it was catching up. Lights appeared in the distance, then buildings, then normal streets. Everything lined up again, like nothing had happened. I didn't say anything after that. When we reached my place, the locks clicked and I got out immediately. The ride ended in the app like it was completely normal. Later, I checked the route history. There was no stop shown anywhere, just one continuous trip. Like that part had never happened. I booked the ride because it was raining and I didn't want to wait around outside. The driver pulled up a few minutes later, older sedan, nothing special, just a bit worn around the edges. I got in the back, shook some water off my jacket, and said, "Hey," while closing the door. The inside smelled slightly damp, like the car had been sitting closed for too long. He nodded once and started driving without saying anything. I didn't think much of it. Some drivers just keep quiet. I put my phone on my lap and watched the rain slide down the window for a bit. The streets were mostly empty, just a few headlights passing now and then. It should have been a normal ride, about 10 minutes, maybe less. After a few blocks, I checked the route out of habit. It looked fine, everything lined up. I leaned back and stopped paying attention for a minute. Then the car slowed down, not at a light, just in the middle of the road. I looked up. There was someone standing on the sidewalk ahead, hood up, hands in their pockets, just waiting there. I assumed maybe it was someone he knew. The driver pulled over without saying anything. The person walked up to the car and opened the front passenger door, got in. No words exchanged, no explanation. I sat there for a second, trying to figure out what was going on. What's happening?" I asked. The driver didn't answer. The person in the front didn't turn around. They just closed the door and sat there. The car started moving again, like nothing unusual had happened. I looked at the app. Still just one passenger listed, no stop added, no change in the route. I leaned forward slightly. "I didn't agree to this," I said. The driver kept his eyes on the road. The person in the front shifted a little, but didn't turn around. I noticed their hand rested near the center console, not doing anything, just there. The car felt smaller suddenly. The air inside felt heavier, like there wasn't enough of it. I reached for the door handle next to me. It didn't open. I pulled it again, harder. Still nothing. I looked closer. There was a child lock switch on the door, worn down, scratched. I hadn't noticed it before. I leaned forward again. "Unlock the door." No response. I said it again, louder. "Unlock the door." The driver exhaled slowly. "Relax," he said. That word didn't help. It made it worse. I looked out the window. The route didn't look familiar anymore. We had turned off the main road without me noticing. The street lights were further apart now. The rain made everything harder to see. I checked my phone. No signal. The map froze. I tried to refresh it, but nothing happened. I leaned forward between the seats. "Stop the car," I said. The driver didn't respond. The person in the front shifted slightly, just enough that I noticed. Still not turning around. I felt that moment where you realize you're not in control of what happens next. I reached forward and grabbed the back of the driver's seat. "Stop the car." This time louder. The car slowed down slightly, then picked up speed again. That was when I moved forward without thinking and reached for the steering wheel. The car jerked to the side. The driver reacted immediately, pushing me back with one arm while trying to keep the car straight. The tires slid on the wet road. Then he slammed the brakes. The car stopped hard. Everything went quiet except for the rain hitting the roof. For a second, no one moved. Then I heard the locks click. I pulled the handle, and this time it opened. I got out immediately. Stepping back onto the wet pavement, the rain soaked through my clothes almost instantly. I looked at the car. Neither of them got out. The driver kept his hands on the wheel. The person in the front still hadn't turned around. After a few seconds, the car started moving again. They drove off without saying anything. I stood there in the rain for a while before my phone finally reconnected. The ride was marked as completed. No extra stop, no second passenger. Like it had just been a normal trip.